Why would you do this? Why would you watch this guy? He has no value whatsoever. If you have watched his channel before, don't watch it again. If you are currently a subscriber to E for Electric, unsubscribe. This guy adds nothing.
That's the guy who's gonna be the guest on my show? Today, right now? Who booked him? Oh, me? Okay. Okay, I should probably tell you how we went from, well, this.
If you have watched his channel before, don't watch it again.
To having him on this show. Well, so when I saw that video, cleverly titled E for Idiot, I thought I would give Warren a quick spelling lesson and invite myself to explain to him live on his channel why he was, it's a medical term, full of shit. And to his credit, he accepted. That led to not just one, but two live debates with wonderful moments like this.
You go to the bathroom really fast. You just pee at the side of the car, or do you walk into the gas station restroom to pee?
I wear diapers, actually. Just, when on long trips, Warren, that's how I roll. I don't want to miss a point of my time.
Nice.
Hey, you put two middle-aged men in one room, sooner or later, we'll be talking about our bladders. So today we're having yet another debate, this time on this channel for the first time, actually, and we're going to be talking about whether or not Tesla's full self-driving beta is a scam. So let's get to it, but before that, a quick reminder that this video is brought to you by NeoCharge. Guess what? The 220 outlet that powers your dryer can now be split to also power your electric car with the help of the smart splitter from NeoCharge. It will automatically switch back to your dryer while you're doing laundry. Get one today and use the discount code in the description of this video. And by Flow, always reliable, extremely durable. The Flow Home is a level 2 EV charging station designed to make your life easier and is compatible with any EV in North America. Learn more about the Flow Home at flow.com. All right, Warren, who would have thought I'm having you as a guest on my channel? How did we get here?
I think we see some things the same way and some things differently, and we're a good match in that way.
Yes. I wish we didn't start by one of us calling another idiot, but however, fate brought us together. Okay, all right, listen, we're not here to talk about our feelings. Let's talk about like an actual issues. And today we're going to talk about the full self-driving beta, which Tesla has had out for a few years. Now, this is something that, let's start with things that we probably agree on. So you tell me if you agree with this. I think that Tesla is actually doing it the right way, right? They're doing it as an AI concept where any Tesla should be able to drive pretty much anywhere as long as the technology knows like what the signs mean and stuff like that, right? Where even though, Cruise and Waymo are ahead in some ways, for example, you can hire a Waymo taxi in California, Arizona. There will be no driver behind the wheel. It will be very futuristic, but they're using 3D maps. And it's very contained to that area. And others like Ford and GM, they're definitely behind in many ways. So, do we agree on that the way to do this correctly is the way Tesla is doing it right now?
I mostly agree with you. I don't agree that Waymo is futuristic. I rode in a Waymo and I did not find it to be futuristic. But yeah, I think we drive cars with 2 cameras and biological neural nets. And the solution to driving is the cars drive with cameras, more than 2 cameras, and digital neural nets. I think that makes sense. It may make sense to add some kind of high definition radar at some point. There may be some other things that'll help, but I drive FSD beta. I just drove FSD beta home today. I think it's very, very good. It's not there yet, but it's very good. And it sees the road. It sees the road. It understands things just like ChatGPT understands things seems to understand things. The car seems to understand what's happening on the road.
Now, before we get to, vision only, LiDARs and radars, let's talk about, you just mentioned, well, they're not there yet, right? I guess this is where I have a big problem, because to me, when Tesla community sees brands offering something and then not delivering on that, they call it a scam. But how's Tesla not doing very much the same thing? They have, when I say they, Elon has consistently promised, that this is going to be full self-driving. It's called full self-driving. And, they are accepting money. It's up to $15,000 right now. And yet they have not delivered the product or given people a refund. Well, how is this not a scam?
So I bought FSD beta twice now. I bought FSD twice. I have FSD beta on 2 different cars. I feel much safer. It's not a robotaxi yet, but I've driven 40,000 miles in my Model X. And the vast majority of those miles I've drove on FSD, and I feel much safer knowing that FSD is driving my car. And I would add to that, on the previous car, which my younger child now drives, my older daughter, I was going with her to see my mother, and I got tired and I asked my older daughter to drive, and I asked her to have FSD beta drive and her supervise FSD beta. And I felt much safer with FSD beta driving and her supervising that I would have felt with her driving. So I think people underestimate the value of FSD as it is now. It's something that makes cars safer as it is. It's not.
Yeah, but that's not what we're really talking about, right? Like, it's, for example, if I go to a bar and order a lemonade and the bartender gives me water, I go, whoa, I ordered amyloid. But he's like, well, but I just got you hydrated. It is a liquid. It is a liquid. It is better than being, dehydrated, but it's not what I'm paying for. I should pay $0 for water, but you just charge me $5 for lemonade. So I'm not arguing whether or not it's better than nothing. I'm saying that if you're charging, $15,000 for something, and you've continuously promised that this is going to be something in 1 or 2 years, and then people end up, ending their leases without getting what they paid for. How is this okay?
Okay, so let's clarify something. The people who paid $15,000, that wasn't 5 years ago, right? The price only reached
any money.
Okay, but the understanding, look, when I bought it, I had the understanding it'll be genuine full self-driving robotaxi at some point, and we don't know when. Elon is very
we did know when, because Elon told us that.
But when you went to the website to buy the car and you were buying the option, it's fully disclosed on there. This is beta software. This isn't ready yet. It didn't say on the website when you were buying it, it's going to be ready next week, right? It didn't. The promise wasn't there. Was Elon over optimistic in when he thought they would achieve, robotaxi? Sure. But, he turns the impossible into late. So the practical reality is they are the safest cars on the road. And I buy FSD knowing that it may or may not happen because I'm going to sell my Model X in August, and I'm probably not going to have it's probably not going to be a robotaxi by the time I sell it. I'm selling it, and there's a whole long story behind that. But that doesn't bother me. The practical reality is I've driven 40,000 miles and I've been safer for all 40,000 miles. And I've had incidents where my car saved someone's life. Had a couple of times where my car saw somebody I didn't see. Guy stepped out from behind a hedge and my Model 3 stopped. And I didn't know why it was stopping. And I was about to hit the accelerator pedal, and then I saw him. So it saw the guy half a second before I did. So you're correct that it's not everything that was promised, or that everything that we were told it would be. I don't know if promise is the right word, but
promise is the right word, because Elon promised, and I think people believe the CEO of the company.
I don't think promise is the correct word for what he said. I think he was optimistically saying, this is what we think we're going to do. I don't think he said, I promise you it'll be ready next week. I think he projected that they would do it, but I don't think it was ever a promise.
His statements have always been, well, I don't know. They've always actually been like, this is going to happen. We're going to have robotaxis. And that's how he justified the price and consistently raising the price of these cars.
No. The value of robotaxi is way more than $15,000. The value of robotaxi is easily $100,000.
if you're willing to outsource your car, for example, most of us are not willing to do Airbnb with our apartments and houses on the weekend. So that does not raise the value of the house, right? So I think that's a kind of a false pretense.
Let's address that point. If you are not willing to put your car out as a robotaxi and someone else is, and it's worth $100,000 to someone else, then you can sell your car for you can sell your car for the value of the car plus $100,000, and you can buy a car that doesn't have the feature. Right? You can buy a Mustang Mach-E or whatever EV you want to buy, or you can buy a gas car. You can buy a horse if you don't want to own. You can buy a flip phone if you don't want a smartphone. Nobody's forcing you to hold on to it. If you don't buy it because I bought them because I'm expecting there's a you'd call it a call option. Like there's a probability that it's going to achieve this level and it's going to start producing massive value, right? And so I'm holding my Model 3 till the end of time, until robotaxi comes, because I believe that the robotaxi will happen and that will make that car extremely valuable. For my Model X, it's just time to move on from the Model X. That's a long conversation, but I think that people who are buying FSD, I don't know why. The whole idea is that you're paying $15,000 now because you think it's going to be worth $100,000 later. And if you think it's only going to be worth $15,000 later, then you shouldn't have bought it now.
Well, yes, that's actually, I just made a short earlier today where, if you're giving money to a Nigerian prince at this point, that's kind of your own fault. So because I had a lot of, followers saying like, oh, I can't believe it. I bought it and it didn't get delivered. When did you buy it? A year ago. A year ago, we all knew it wasn't going to happen. So there's also some responsibility on people who actually paid the money.
I don't think Nigerian prince is a fair comparison. They are the safest.
Really? I actually think it's an exact analogy where somebody promises you something and takes the money and does not give it to you.
So the Nigerian prince doesn't give you anything at all. When you buy a Tesla, you get the safest car on the road. You get the most efficient car on the road. You get the coolest car on the road. You get the most fun car on the road. When you buy something from a Nigerian prince, you get nothing. That's why it's not a fair comparison.
Well, we're not talking about the car. We're talking about the actual FSD package, which is not a full self-driving package.
Doesn't sell you anything at all. The Nigerian prince only sells you a fraud. And when you buy FSD, you get the safest driving software on the road. It makes your car is already the safest on the road in a crash, but it's the car least likely to crash as well.
It is, to me, it's the same as not having FSD. To me, if I have to keep my eyes on the road and hands on the wheel, to me, I call it, and call me crazy, driving. So to me, the value is still exactly the same as if I didn't have it.
Wait, do you ever take your eyes off the road?
Once in a while, I do, of course.
You never get distracted? You never get sleepy?
Once in a while, yeah.
Okay, well, so that's when it's really valuable. When it's really valuable is when you got distracted and the car didn't. When it's really valuable is when you get sleepy. And this happened to me once. I was driving to California and I was in a long, dead stretch of roadway and I started nodding off. I didn't fall asleep, but I was really on the edge of it. And the car kept going straight. The car kept me alive. I think that if you don't appreciate the value that it delivers in being able to keep you safe, then maybe you don't value your safety.
Well, we go back to the same, lemonade of the water. Like I said, that bartender who gave me water when I paid for lemonade did hydrate me. So I kind of should be happy that I didn't pass out from dehydration. But I paid for the lemonade. And that's called a scam when you're not getting something you paid for. So, but I think where we are disagreeing here is that whether or not it was promised, right? When the CEO of when a CEO of the company says, hey, we're coming up with this feature, he announced the price, we're going to raise the price, and this is what you're going to get. To me, it's a promise. When a CEO of the company promises and charges money for it, I should not even, blink my eye and I can go and get it. Going back and saying, well, but in the small print, it said that, don't trust Elon Musk. That's
small print. And I'm going to give you a different analogy. You ordered a cheesecake and it was supposed to come with whipped cream on top. You got the cheesecake. It's the best damn cheesecake you ever had in your life. But the whipped cream isn't there. Okay, you can complain about it. You still got the best.
If I paid $15,000 for the whipped cream and it's not there, then it's going to be a big problem because it's not like you're paying $15,000 for the entire car. $15,000 is just to get the upgrade.
No. The car and the safety that FSD gives you is the cheesecake, and the robo-taxi is the whipped cream.
But
the only thing
you're not buying.
The only thing you're not getting. The only thing you're not getting is the robo-taxi feature. And you don't want to use it as a robo-taxi anyway, so why do you care?
Because if I'm paying money for a full self-driving, again, call me crazy, I would like this car to full self-drive. Period. Anything less than that, I want my money back. Just like I want my money back for that lemonade that actually was water. But you know,
when you go to the Tesla website and you're clicking that you want to get FSD, it very clearly discloses, not in small print, that it's not there yet, and that these features will be unlocked at some point in the future. And if you don't, if you're about to spend $15,000, you don't read the simple text right in front of you, then yeah, you're right. But that's not a Nigerian prince. The Nigerian prince doesn't tell you it's not ready yet. The Nigerian prince tells you, you know, I'm going to send it to you tomorrow. I'm going to send it to you right now.
So let me ask you this, and this is another part of why I think it just looks like a scam. You know, a few years back, Tesla community was very harsh on Nikola Motors because they have showed their truck rolling down the street and said, look at that. And it turned out to be that they staged it. It was fake. And everybody in Tesla community yelled, see, that's a scam. Now, Tesla, now that we know, because, you know, they get sued a lot for this and they had to do depositions. And the director of Autopilot, I believe at Tesla, admitted that one of the videos that I put out, which by the way is still on their website, was a fake video where they have used the 3D maps, where they actually interfered, human interfered, and then it also ran into a wall, I believe, at the Tesla's parking lot. And yet they've passed this video as fully self-driving. That's another thing that made me think that's kind of a scam. And I'm only using the sort of the logic from Tesla community. Can you explain that?
I don't know which video you're referring to. All I can tell you is I drive my car, and my car does pretty much what every one of those videos shows every day.
The video is on Tesla's website. It demonstrates.
I don't know which one you're referring. What I'm saying is my car. I've seen Tesla videos showing the car doing full self-driving. I don't know which one you're referring to.
Okay, one of them.
My car does that every day. What it shows in the video, my car does that every day.
So why fake it? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, why fake something that's working?
I don't know about the fake you're talking about.
I just explained to you. And by the way, this is something that came out from the deposition and one of the trials. I think it's between like Tesla and Apple, reported by Reuters and many other media, where it's just taken right there. They interviewed him, and the guy said, you know, sorry, we faked it. We weren't going to tell you until you forced us into. So then the question is,
I'm sure that means if Reuters said it, it must be true.
If the director of Autopilot at Tesla said it, it must be true. That's what I'm saying. Reuters just reported what they read in the court filings, right?
I'm sure Reuters would never misrepresent what they read. They would never do something wrong.
Listen, you can prove all of us wrong, but it sounds to me like that's what exactly happened. And we can go back and look, but I think you're going to lose this one if you're going to go and look. There's too many people who reported it, and it's a publicly accessed document.
Here's the thing. I drive FSD all the time, and it does what they show in the videos all the time. It's not perfect. It does some things I don't like. It slows up for flashing yellow lights. Sometimes it doesn't choose the lane I want it to choose. Sometimes it's not as aggressive as I would like. It doesn't crash, and it takes me from point A to point B. It's pretty damn good.
The other sort of a problem that I had with, you know, Elon and Tesla pushing this is that publicly they pushed it as like, oh, we're almost there. It's literally just around the corner. But when they have to report this to DMV, right? Because DMV actually the one that oversees and gives them permits. Every time they talk to the DMV, they've argued, hey guys, this is a level 2. We're nowhere close level 3 or level 4. Don't judge us. We have nothing to do with this. This is completely on the driver. Don't you think that's also a bit dishonest when you have to report facts to DMV, you report it as level 2, but when you're on Twitter trying to sell $15,000 package, all of a sudden it's fully self-driving? Don't you think those two should be closer?
I don't think Tesla has represented that it's level 4. And first of all, I don't like the level representations. I don't think Tesla has said that it's level 4 software. They've said that they're trying. First of all, there's this level 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever setup that the Society of Automotive Engineers has. And I don't think that's really irrelevant. That was something that somebody created years ago before we really got close to where we are today. And what I would say is there's 2 levels that are coming that we're not at yet. One level that's coming is when the car, you have to stay in the driver's seat, but you don't have to pay attention anymore. You don't have to touch the wheel. You're allowed to use your phone, and you only have to take over when the car says, hey, I need you to take over now. That's a level that's coming maybe by the end of this year. And, it's Elon time, so okay, next year. And then once it crosses that threshold, the next level is you can sit in the back seat or no one has to be in the car. So and the thing is, like, level 4, level 5, that's sort of level 4 is sort of like, well, it does everything, but only in certain places. And I don't think that's a relevant concept. It's either, it's going to get to the point where you don't have to pay attention until the car tells you do have to pay attention. And then it's going to get to the point where you don't have to be in the car at all. And so I don't think.
Well, to me, the next stage.
I don't think that concept really makes sense. But the liability issue that you're talking about, Tesla can say it's level 2 and we're not responsible. The driver's responsible. But I was a plaintiff's lawyer for years, and if I thought that Tesla was at fault for the accident, I would sue Tesla anyway. And if I persuaded a judge that Tesla was at fault for the accident, and this does happen from time to time, then Tesla is going to be held liable. This is another reason why this levels distinction doesn't really make sense. If there is some software in the car or some hardware in the car that causes a crash, then the manufacturer is responsible, not the driver. So if it causes a crash, then Tesla's on the hook. So that's another reason why this level 2, level 3, level 4 distinction. But, Tesla has to deal with regulatory compliance. So they're submitting some document to some DMV. They got some lawyer who's filling out some paperwork and they fill it out a certain way. That doesn't mean that they're not achieving very close to a genuine full self-driving car that you no longer have to supervise. They're close. Is it 6 months away? Is it 2 years away? I don't know. We'll see.
Let's talk about, what we actually started to talk about in the beginning. Tesla went with vision only, right? They say, if a human being can drive with just eyes, we can drive with the other. Now, I thought it was, by the way, an awful analogy because, 40,000 people died just in America with that. So I feel like we need more than eyes. What's your view, pun intended, I guess, on Tesla saying we don't need no stinking, radars and lidars and the technologies that actually literally can see through rain and darkness. We're just gonna go with cameras. At this point, do you really think that was the right call?
Yes, I think people don't fully understand what's going on. So for starters, I drive with 2 cameras that are always looking in the same direction. My Tesla drives with 8 cameras that are looking. There's 3 cameras that are looking straight ahead. There's 2 cameras looking from the side straight ahead, 2 cameras looking from the side looking back, and 1 camera in the rear, plus a camera watching me to make sure I pay attention. So the Tesla has a 360-degree view 24/7. I only have a very limited view when I'm driving the car. Second, the advantage is, in addition to that, having the 360-degree view, is the car doesn't fall asleep. The car doesn't have a medication error. The car doesn't get drunk. The car doesn't get distracted by the girl in the bikini. I get distracted by the girl in the bikini.
Me too, all the time. But neither does a lidar or a radar. We're not
right.
arguing that.
Let's address that. So let's address the lidar radar point. So I drive without lidar and I drive without radar. You drive without lidar. You drive without radar. The problem with lidar is it's very expensive.
It's not expensive anymore. That argument only worked 5 years ago. It's like $400 right now. And, you can spare that out of $15,000 that you're charging for this thing. And they're getting cheaper and cheaper. They're no longer, spinning on top. They're literally solid state. You can have 1 or 2. They are quite inexpensive now.
Okay. So all I know is what I saw when Andrej Karpathy talked about lidar. He said they were able to use cameras, and he talked about this concept called pseudo lidar, and they were able to determine that the cameras alone were able to achieve everything that lidar was able to achieve. Now, radar is a different story because lidar doesn't see through fog any better than the cameras do. Lidar is the same light. The radar, there's some theory that the radar can see through some things. The problem with radar is it's a noisy signal, and I don't know how much your viewers can grasp this concept, but if you went back to the old days of television and you're like trying to tune in, or the old days of radio, and you're trying to tune in a radio station, you're not right on the station, you're hearing this crackling noise, and you're kind of hearing the radio station coming through. That's not a high signal. When you hit it right on the spot, you've got a high signal to noise ratio. The signal is what you want to hear, and the noise is the stuff that's a distraction that keeps you from hearing what you want to hear. So the problem with radar historically has been that it's a lot of noise and not a lot of signal. And so, like, for example, we had a lot of phantom braking problems that were primarily caused by radar. And the trying to bring together the radar signal with the camera signal, the cameras are not a noisy signal. They're a reliable high signal to noise ratio system. The radar just didn't add value. And when they took the radar out, the cars continued to perform well and in fact perform better. So there is a rumor, I don't know if it's more than a rumor, that Tesla is going to add in a new radar called HD radar, high definition radar. I don't know whether that's going to happen or not. My own take is what I'm seeing is the car is driving extremely well without having radar, or without using, I think my car still does have radar, but without using radar and without using LiDAR. So the question is, what value does LiDAR add? And, I don't know the cost issue that you're describing. I don't know how long the LiDAR lasts. I don't know whether it lasts 100,000 miles or a million miles. I don't know how much energy it uses. I don't know how much complexity it adds. I don't know how much value it adds to the car making decisions. Because what's happening is the car is taking...
Well, hold on a second. Hold on. First of all, I can answer that question, but let me also address a couple of things you said. You said, okay, well, how much value does LiDAR add? Okay, so, we've all seen those issues where a camera is not able to sometimes understand if the stop sign is an actual stop sign or it's a stop sign on a billboard. I think it's the most famous example where LiDAR would easily be able to, one, determine the distance, to determine the actual shape. So that's just one of many ways how...
Wait. LiDAR does not determine shape.
Of course it can determine shape because it will give you a 3D digital map of what's in front of you by bouncing the 1,000 different lasers off of it. Of course it's going to give you shape.
LiDAR determines what objects are where in terms of distance, but they do not tell you, they do not distinguish colors very well. They do not.
Nobody said anything about colors. I'm telling you, if it's an octagon stop sign, a LiDAR can absolutely tell.
But they don't read a stop sign. They just can tell how far.
No. I'm not saying read. I'm just saying in that case, both LiDAR, the camera read the stop sign, right? But then it didn't realize it was way further away than it really was, and it wasn't even an actual sign. Where if you added the LiDAR, you said, oh, not only it's really far away, that's actually part of a big billboard and not an octagon shaped. And that's where LiDAR would have helped. So that's just how LiDAR would have helped. Now, as far as the noise is concerned, cameras are quite noisy as well. They actually have more noise that you can argue than radars, but they serve two different purposes, right? With your eyes and with my eyes, a lot of times we don't see things in the dark, or sometimes reflections, screw things up, and lanes, and a lot of things go wrong, especially with older eyes, right? So LiDARs and radars do help with perception. They do help with understanding where the objects are. Seeing through the darkness is a thing, not giving a crap about the glare. There are a lot of benefits. And yes, it has a lot of noise, but so does the camera. So those are kind of the counters to these sort of notions, how we can just, vision only and we're good. These technologies are...
What is the latency on LiDAR?
Different LiDARs have different latency. And also, don't forget, it's not just about latency. It's also about how fast you process the signal.
Well, that's kind of the whole point, right? So what's going on with Tesla is by going straight to vision and by going from having digital image processors processing the photons that come in and then translating that into image that the car then has to translate back to data, they switch to raw photon counts, right? My guess, and I don't know the answer to this question, my guess is that the LiDAR data would be late. The processing of the LiDAR data would take too long and would slow down the car making its decisions. I think, like the thing you're talking about with like the stop sign that's over on a billboard, right? There's an infinite array of corner cases, edge cases, whatever you want to call it. And the secret to that is not having some additional software, some additional hardware to have a different way of looking at things. The secret to that is getting the neural nets better, training the neural nets on more data and having more compute. And that's what Tesla's been doing. More data, more compute. They got more cars driving FSD, and they got more GPUs and Dojo coming online, and they are rapidly improving what they have. And I can only tell you, like, I don't have that problem. Like, I've driven 60 some thousand miles on FSD beta, and I don't have the problem that you're describing.
But that's not a good argument because it's just saying that, like, I have this one thing, my car has no problems, so no other car that was made has no problems.
I didn't say it has no.
But you know what I'm saying? No, I'm just saying, generally speaking, because I get this all the time. I would criticize a car, or, most of the time would be Tesla, and then somebody or a million people would say, well, my Tesla is okay. It doesn't have a gaps in panels. It doesn't have this and this. I was like, okay, yours doesn't. But if 10% do, that's really bad in terms of quality. So these are all anecdotal. This is nothing that I can check or we can put into a bigger set of data of what's actually happening with a product.
Right. Who has the data?
Tesla has the data, by the way, and they're not releasing it. That's another thing that's kind of weird, that they're not releasing their data.
Do you think they're motivated to make it work?
Of course they're motivated to make it work.
So they have the data. Don't you think they're in a better place to decide it than me with my experience driving FSD beta, or you with your experience not driving FSD beta?
In terms of whether or not to add radars or lidars?
Yes.
Well, so yes and no. First of all, Elon is a very stubborn man. So once he makes a call, he doesn't ever want to admit that he's wrong. So that's one thing that actually works against the actual progress at Tesla, I feel like. And secondly, his job is not to make really FSD beta better, though that would be great. His job is to make as much money as possible for the investors. And when you remove those parts, like, radars and so forth, you save money. So I think he's got two jobs there, and one overpowers the other. So that's not always a good argument saying, well, doesn't he want to make it work? He wants to make more money.
You're saying Elon is trying to make more profits when so many people in the so-called Tesla bull community, the Gary Blacks and Ross Gerbers, are complaining that Tesla's not profitable enough?
No, now you're talking about investors, and I don't care about investors. I'm only looking at this from a perspective of a consumer. That's another weird phenomenon that goes on in Tesla community. And I understand most of you guys own stock, but what's good for Tesla as a company doesn't mean necessarily it's good for a consumer. And I will always be on the side of the consumer and never on the side of multi-billion-dollar corporation, whether it's Tesla or Rivian or Volkswagen.
As a consumer, I would say that anybody who buys any vehicle other than a Tesla is making a mistake. If you buy a Tesla, you're buying the most efficient car, and you're buying the safest car, and you're buying the most fun car. And like my child, I had a Volkswagen Passat, and I was getting this Model X, and I could have sold my Model 3 for twice as much as I sold the Passat for. But I wanted my child driving in a Tesla, not a Volkswagen. And
this one we can agree to disagree. I don't think that Tesla...
No, but you're saying you're speaking for the consumer, and I am a consumer, and I own two Teslas, and I chose to have my child, who I cherish very much, in the safest car I could have her in.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of people who chose, Mustang Mach-E and thought their children are safer there. Like, I don't know if you love your child more than they love their children. I think that different people have different priorities and views on things, and there is no such thing as the best car ever. This is the best car ever for you, but for someone else, another car is the best car.
They are the safest cars on the road, period, no question about it. NHTSA, the IIHS crash data, the Euro NCAP, the Australian, all the crash testing, and all the ADAS testing, all the vehicle avoiding, automatic emergency braking, all that kind of stuff, all that testing, Teslas consistently outperform other vehicles. They're safer in crashes, and they're better at avoiding crashes. We just had an incident not that long ago where somebody in a Tesla, this guy was suicidal, whatever, and drove himself and his family off a cliff. And I know this spot. This was Devil's Slide. I used to live in Moss Beach, California. He drove off this cliff, and I drove past this cliff many times. And every time, once or twice a month, somebody would drive off that cliff, and they would always die. And they said, we went down figuring we were going to pull the bodies out, and they were alive, and they were barely injured.
I think you're missing my point.
Car you can buy.
I'm not arguing with you that Tesla is the safest cars. If that's what data shows, that's fine. But that doesn't make it the best car for someone else. If your priority is safety for your child, then that's your decision to make it the best car. But if your priority is to maybe show off in front of your friends how fast it goes 0 to 60 or whatever else people do, or maybe a budget, not everybody can afford these Teslas, then a different car is best. That's all I'm saying, right? But let me address one more thing.
Wait, the 0 to 60 thing, what car do you want to match against my Plaid Model X?
The one that will beat it?
Well, so the Plaid Model S.
No, there is a Rivera. There is,
what?
Batista.
Rivera? What's a Rivera?
Rimac Rivera.
How much does that cost?
Doesn't matter how much it costs. You want to name a car that will beat your Plaid, and that's the car. I mean, what do you mean? I couldn't care less about 0 to 60. I couldn't. But okay, listen. Let's get back to the more of a reality here, because I don't think 0 to 60 matters to most consumers. So, moving forward, because again, one thing we agreed on is that we both want this to work because it will save tens of thousands of people every year if it actually works. So you and I agree, the faster the better. And I think Tesla is going to get there first. However, my concern is that, repeatedly, every year or two, the head of the autopilot and AI, whatever you want to call it, quits and is not really replaced by someone else. It's, it's a second in command that becomes, and now we've gone through 3 of them.
Did Ashok Laswamy leave?
Kaparthi left was the last one, right?
Okay, so Ashok Laswamy has been the head of the autopilot team for a long time. I don't know who you're...
Karpathy was the guy in charge of full self-driving,
that's not true.
on Tesla.
That's not true. Karpathy was one of the people on the team. He was not in charge. Ashok Laswamy was in charge of FSD, of the autopilot team, and he was in charge before and he's in charge now. Andrei Karpathy was a very valued contributor to the Tesla team. He was really important. He delivered a lot of value, and he did, in fact, leave. People leave companies all the time.
That's not how Tesla positioned them, okay? That's not how Tesla positioned them at all. It was very clear that Karpathy was in charge. He was in every single, video and the presentation that in the shareholder meeting that Tesla had, and he was headlining the AI days, right? So he's gone. No one replaced him, really. My concern is that who is in charge? Whose vision, again, no pun intended, but sort of, whose vision is being implemented? Because as you remember, a couple of years ago, Tesla admitted that they ran their algorithm and their software into the ground so much they had to completely rewrite the core software, even roll back some of the features. So what I'm saying is that if people who couldn't do it right in the first place are still there, and some of them are not, who is this new generation of people who's running it? Because we know it's not Elon. He's right now with Twitter, as he probably should be. Who is in charge of this? Because this is the most important part of developing this software, the last 1 or 2%, right? And I don't see the visionary right now, and that's my concern.
Okay, I've answered this question before. Ashok Laswamy has been in charge and is still in charge of the autopilot team. And he's presented at both AI days, and he presented at Investor Day, and he presented so as a separate presentation, and it's very clear his goal is to make cars that won't crash. And he presented this brilliant presentation on how they've stopped 40 pedal misapplications a day, that they figured out how to detect when somebody's hitting the wrong pedal. They're hitting the accelerator pedal when they should be hitting the brake pedal, and they've avoided 40 accidents a day by stopping pedal misapplications.
How long has he been at Tesla?
I don't know. I think it's several years.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm understanding, he was a part of the original team that ran into the ground and now had to rewrite the code. Which is, listen, by the way, I have no problems with people admitting their mistakes and saying, hey, we need to back up and rewrite it. By the way, full kudos to them. I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm not saying they can't. I don't know if the same team or the same vision can actually do it if they, fail for the first time. Because it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing.
I'm just going to tell you, let's see. Ashok has been with Tesla for 9 years and 5 months.
So he was originally part of the problem.
Director of autopilot software. Okay, so let's do a comparison, okay? I just watched the Falcon Heavy. I watched my 4th Falcon Heavy launch, and they did not recover the boosters, by the way. I have seen several booster recoveries coming back to land. I have seen several re-entry burns. I live in Cape Canaveral. I don't know if you know, I moved to Cape Canaveral so I could watch launches. So before SpaceX successfully was recovering boosters, they crashed a bunch of them. And Starship just blew up. Was the launch a success or was the launch a failure? People who understand that was a success. They generated a lot of data. They learned a lot. So one of the challenges when you're doing what you're doing is you're going to get things wrong. And Elon talks about that. You're always wrong. Your goal is to be less wrong. And they reached a local maximum. They realized they reached a local maximum. They thought they were on the path to success, and they realized they weren't on the right path. And they stepped back and they redid it. And they got rid of radar, and they went to vision only, and they went to raw photon counts, and they're generating more data, and they're generating more compute, and they've got now Dojo coming online soon, and they're making all these steps that they can to get to where they need to be. So the idea that they're not doing what needs to be done, you're going to make mistakes on the way. Honestly, like I have my crazy idea that you can't see it. My background on the Zoom is these little cars. I have this project where I'm trying to make single passenger electric vehicle, and I keep screwing up. I had a project where I was trying to make a quiet doghouse, and I built the doghouse, and I put my iPhone inside and played loud music, and I put it outside and played loud music, and it was louder inside the doghouse. If you don't keep trying things, you'll never get there. So what Tesla does and what SpaceX does is you keep getting it wrong until you figure out how to get it right.
Yeah, listen, I get it. Oh, you miss all the shots you don't take. I totally understand that. What I'm saying is that if you are not that sure if you can get there, which obviously this team wasn't, you shouldn't be telling people it is almost there and then charging them money for it. You see, to me, it just comes to full circle.
Okay, so that misses the point. They didn't tell us we were there. Elon was pretty confident. I genuinely believe they thought they were going to get there. They thought they were close. They didn't realize they were heading for a local maximum. They discovered there were things they didn't understand, that the problem was harder than they thought it was. But by having people have this software operating on their cars, it generates more data. And you need to generate more. And I paid the money. I'm one of these people you're trying to protect from this. I paid the money for FSD. I'm happily contributing to Tesla solving FSD. I believe, and I want to be clear about this. I want to be clear about this too, because this is really important. I made a video about this. My younger child was in a dance program at a middle school. And there's another girl. My younger daughter's name is Hannah. And there's another girl at the school named Hannah. I can't remember Hannah's name off the top of my head. So that Hannah had moved away somewhere in North Florida, was skateboarding through a crosswalk, and a guy in a car hit her. He didn't see her, and he hit her, and she died. Right? Now, I believe that if that car had been a Tesla with FSD, it would have stopped. Right? And I believe that if we get to the point where we have cars that are self-driving, and you have to take risks and you have to make mistakes to get there. But if you don't go full effort to get there, then you're not going to get there. And the fact that Elon Musk and Ashok Ellaswamy and Karpathy, when he was there, and the rest of the Tesla team are pushing really hard to get there is what's going to get us to the point where we do save 40,000 lives a year in America and 1 million lives a year in the world. That's what's going to.
We're in agreement there. We're in a full agreement there. I'm just saying.
But it wouldn't be happening. You wouldn't have this if they weren't selling FSD to people, because you wouldn't be generating the data.
No, you're wrong there. I'll tell you why. First of all, then they should have given this for free. First of all, if they wanted to have human trials, and
but I chose to pay for it. I chose to pay for it, and I paid
that's
for it.
Fine. But listen,
I don't regret paying for it. You're complaining on behalf of consumers who aren't complaining. There's a couple of cranks out there who are saying, "Hey, it didn't do what I wanted it to do." The reality is, the vast majority of people who paid for FSD are happy that they have what they have.
No, I don't know if that data is correct, because all I hear from in my comment section, people contacting me that they actually are not very happy with it. But that's beyond the point. I'm saying is that, and by the way, the way you do testing a lot of times is not by putting it out in 800,000 cars. You actually have an amazing, good virtual reality generators where you can actually reproduce all of that stuff a million times more.
They do that too. They show that at AI Day. They do that also. But you can't generate real world data without being in the real world. The real world pops things up that you just can't imagine. Just crazy stuff happens all the time, and you can't simulate the real world completely because random things
Totally
happen
agree.
in the real
That's
world.
why you go over the accident reports rather than do human trials. And even if you want to do human trials by people who are fully, consenting to this, well, don't make money on that. Like, just wait, or at least don't promise these people.
I paid for it. I don't regret paying for it, and I benefited from it because it's not human trials where people are put at greater risk. It's a trial where people are made safer by doing the trial. It makes us safer, not more dangerous. I am paying, and I've happily paid for FSD, and it makes me safer. It makes my family safer. It makes the people around me safer. It makes the other cars safer.
Your prediction: when will Tesla full self-driving be fully self-driving? We're talking about. I know you don't like this system, but nevertheless, when will it be level 5?
Okay, so I'm not going to use that terminology, and I gave it to you before. There's a point.
When can I nap on the back seat of a Tesla driving, and if something happens,
so there's
they take the responsibility?
There's 2 steps. Step 1 is you have to stay in the driver's seat, but you don't have to pay attention anymore until the car says, "Hey, I need you to take over." Right? I think that's coming by the end of the year, maybe early next year, and then 6 months to a year after that, we get to full robo-taxi. So early to mid 2025, we're gonna have robo-taxi.
I can't disagree more, but I am rooting for you to be right and for me to be wrong, because the faster we get there, the more lives we'll save, and it could be yours or mine. So, all right, listen, we're hopefully we're still around in another 12 months to see which one of us was right, and we'll get some bragging rights at the end of this.
Cool. Well, we'll be in other countries, but we'll still be around.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Wow. 40 minutes of talking to Warren, and I wasn't called an idiot once. Kind of disappointing, actually. But we have taped another debate right after that. So don't forget to subscribe, because I will release that video in the next couple of weeks. But if you would like to know more about my opinions on Tesla, here's another one where I tell you why I think the Tesla Cybertruck is actually going to be a bad idea for Tesla as a brand in the long run. Enjoy that. See you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.